Okay, Mr. Boone, we're all set.
Okay. Good evening. I hereby call to order the Crestwood School Board of Directors regular meeting for May 2021. I will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Bibla.
Here.
Mr. Brogna.
Here.
Mrs. McCurdy. Mrs. McGovern.
Here.
Mrs. Spath. Mr. Swank.
Here.
Mr. Costello.
Here.
Mrs. Haddix.
Here.
Mr. Boone.
Here.
7 members present.
Okay. Thank you. An executive session was held prior to tonight's school board meeting in regard to contracts, personnel, and acting or pending litigation. Tonight, when we get into the voting session, we will be electing a school board secretary for a 4-year term and a school board treasurer for a 1-year term. This is the month we are to do it by law. We will be seeking approval of the regular board minutes from April 15th, 2021, and approval of the treasurer's report of April 2021. We will now have the superintendent's report.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. President. Welcome, members of our Board of Education and members of our public for this May 20th, 2021 board meeting. I would like to begin this evening with a letter to our Cyber Academy families. Dear Crestwood Cyber Academy families, I hope you and your family are doing well and have enjoyed your educational experience within our 2020-2021 Crestwood Cyber Academy. Our district is proud of the excellent educational experience we were able to provide our families during this past school year. We recognize our large enrollment within the Crestwood Cyber Academy was a result of the pandemic and not a true indication of our community's desire for cyber education. To that end, I am speaking tonight to provide our Crestwood Cyber Academy families valuable information for educational planning for the 2021-2022 school year. To make the process seamless for our families, I have asked my administrators to enroll our students who are currently in the Crestwood Cyber Academy back into their community school. Specifically, at the end of this school year, students will no longer be enrolled in the Crestwood Cyber Academy for the 2021-2022 school year. Therefore, any family who chooses to no longer be enrolled in the Crestwood Cyber Academy does not need to take any action. Your child will be enrolled in their respective school, which is Rice Elementary, Fairview Elementary, or our Crestwood Secondary Campus. Beginning with the 2021-2022 school year, we will be transitioning our Crestwood Cyber Academy to its intended form, which is through our partnership with Edmentum. With that said, we will continue to embrace our cyber philosophy, always a comment, and we endeavor to deliver excellence in cyber education. We will no longer utilize Crestwood School District teachers to deliver live instruction or to serve as a teacher of record for their classes. I do want to emphasize, however, Crestwood teachers will serve as case managers and liaisons for our students enrolled in the Crestwood Cyber Academy. Every Crestwood Cyber Academy student will be paired with a Crestwood teacher to provide necessary support and guidance as they maneuver the cyber experience. The Crestwood Cyber Academy will be served by Edmentum teachers who are all Pennsylvania certified and who utilize the Edmentum platform and products to deliver a Pennsylvania core standard-based curriculum. I will be providing detailed information regarding our Crestwood Cyber Academy in the near future to afford families who are interested in continuing in cyber or transferring to our cyber program time to make an informed decision. One thing I am confident about is that if your family has already decided to continue with a cyber option, there is no better program than the Crestwood Cyber Academy. We look forward to serving you moving forward, no matter what path you choose. Should your family decide to continue with cyber education after being fully informed, it will be necessary to complete a very simple and swift enrollment process. We will be there to guide you and inform you through the entire process. Thank you, Crestwood Cyber Academy families, for remaining comments. We are proud of our collective efforts and look forward to a successful 2021-2022 school year. I would like to go over some of the end of year schedules, and this is only a little bit of what's happening. A lot of great things going on at the end of the year, as we do every year. And all this will be posted to our website. You will get letters from your building principals. So don't worry if you don't catch this all right now. This will be delivered to you again. Our end of year schedule. On Wednesday, June 9th, we will be bringing our students in person. So they will be coming to school on Wednesday, June 9th. There will be an early dismissal on that day, which is 12 o'clock secondary, 1 p.m. for our elementary. On June 10th, we will follow the same schedule, Thursday, June 10th, 12 o'clock secondary dismissal, 1 p.m. elementary. And then our last day of school for this school year will be Friday, June 11th. We will have a 10 o'clock dismissal on our secondary campus and 11 o'clock dismissal at our elementary. Again, this will be sent to you and will be posted. I just want to give you as much notice as possible. Some happenings at some of our schools. I want to mention Fairview Elementary will be holding a 6th grade field trip to Canobos on June 2nd. There will also be a 6th grade dance on June 3rd at Fairview. It will be socially distanced. And then also at Fairview, June 4th, we will be having a virtual graduation. And maybe at this time, we can play a little clip. Mr. Blanchard, if you could bring that up. Excellent. Thank you so very much. You can see that little clip on YouTube. There is some music that goes along with it, but what a great, great job. I want to thank Mr. Crocus and all of our 6th grade teachers, both regular and cyber programs, for helping put that together and for putting together the virtual celebration. There will be also lots of different happenings at Rice Elementary that I will be introducing to you at a later date, but those are happening. I know there's a trip to Knoebels, there's a graduation, there's going to be a fun day dance. I don't have the dates right now, and I apologize. That's on me, but all that's happening as well at Rice. Both our elementaries really finding such a great way to close a year that none of us will ever forget. Secondary campus. Want to mention this weekend, Freaky Friday the musical. Please, you have to come by and see it. We will be socially distanced. There's plenty of room in our auditorium. Capacities have been expanded. You have to come see Freaky Friday. I caught a little bit of their rehearsals. These kids are just amazing, top to bottom. It's this Friday, the 21st, 7 p.m. This Saturday, the 22nd, 7 p.m., right in our beautiful auditorium. Have to thank Mrs. Mary Catherine Leo for the job she does year in and year out. Again, if you get an opportunity, please come by and see this. We have June 2nd is our senior prom. We're excited that we're able to have our senior prom. Also will tell you that we are having our senior parade, hoping this becomes a new tradition for the school district. We did this last year, and it was such a tremendous success. Our students wanted a parade again this year. Of course, Wright Township always works so wonderfully with us in helping us ensure that we can do this without causing too much disruption to Route 309 and the businesses. So we will be having our parade. And of course, there will be the traditional graduation again this year at the arena. So all that information will be coming home to all of our families. I do want to take a moment to thank Mr. Tommy Benz and Mr. Randy Swank for donating the coverings on our goalposts. These are pads, so a player does not run into the pad and injure themselves. As you know, those goalposts they're sturdy. We have new pads coming, pads that will more reflect Crestwood. As you know, if you've been to any of our events at the stadium, right now the pads are maroon. Certainly not our colors, are not the colors from since I've known Crestwood. So we don't know how long that those pads have been there. But both of these gentlemen have decided to make a donation to the district. So we will have the new padding on the goalpost. Thank you so very much. As we're giving thanks, I need to thank Pizza Bella. I know everyone knows Pizza Bella, tremendous pizza on the mountain. They have supported so many of our students' programmings. They were a major sponsor last week for our unified track and field event. They treated all the students from both teams to their delicious pizza. I did receive a call. I'm not making this up. The very next day, the coach for Wallenpaupack asked me, where was that pizza? Do they deliver to my area? And I said, I don't know about that, but I gave him the location. I said, come take a ride anytime. Pizza Bella is there, and stop and see all of the other amazing places we have on the mountain as well. So thank you to the fine folks at Pizza Bella. I need to congratulate Andrew Moroski. Andrew has earned his Eagle Scout. Some of you I know are aware of how difficult it is to become an Eagle Scout. Andrew did that. He is a sophomore with us, and he is a member of Troop 434 in Mountaintop. Congratulations, Andrew, to an amazing, amazing job. And finally tonight, I would like to give a little bit congratulations or just recognize Mr. Kevin Sayre. Kevin is our principal at Fairview. I know we all know Kevin, but Kevin has been selected to be a statewide facilitator for new administrators during their induction period. This is quite an honor to be selected to provide this type of training for administrators, because it really says that you have mastered all of the areas that the state believes an administrator should possess. So to master that and then be able to train administrators from around the state is quite an acknowledgement and accomplishment. So Kevin, Sarah, I know he'll be upset that I'm singling him out. He does not like that, but I needed to do that. Congratulations, Kevin, for all your tremendous work as an administrator. With that, Mr. Boone, I am going to bring it back to you. Just one more thing. I apologize. We had two questions come in from Miles West and Ryan McCloskey. Both are asking how they can communicate with us virtually, and you can ask your questions on our Facebook page. Mr. Blanchard is monitoring the Facebook page, and he will then ask your questions to the Board of Education or any of the administration. So Miles and Ryan, thank you for your questions. You can ask questions through our Facebook page. We are live there right now, and you'll see a lot of questions being asked through that. So with that, Mr. Boone, I yield back the floor, and thank you so very much for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik. Solicitors report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Other than what was discussed in executive session prior to the meeting tonight, I have no further report.
Thank you. Okay, committee reports. Financial planning, Mr. Brogna.
I will be seeking a motion and approval of items 1 through 7.
Actually, Mr. Brogna, could we, during the work session part of it, could I present the clarification from the budget presentation, if you will?
I'm okay if our board president is okay. I was going to ask that as it relates to the comment period, but I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah, Mr. Boone, do you think this is the appropriate time to go ahead with that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Damien, could you please load the document that says the clarification 2020 2021 budget doc?
It's up.
All right, thank you. To the Board of Directors and to the community of the Crestwood School District, first and foremost, I would like to issue my sincerest apologies. As Mr. Swank pointed out during the presentation, there was an error on the presentation on May 17th where the ESSER 2 money was not included in the calculated total revenue in the presentation. This was not new money or anything that was discovered or found. It was always there, as you can see from past presentations that are on the district website. That total money was $1,461,088. From the time of the presentation on Monday, I was notified also from Mr. Kevin Serra, who doubles as our federal programs coordinator, that we're going to be receiving an increase in our Title I money of approximately $100,000. So I included that also in our updated revenue totals, bringing the totals to the following numbers. So these are the updated total revenue numbers of $44,074,968. The total expenditures budgeted for are $44,317,273, bringing the operating deficit down to $242,305. The fund balance would be then left at $1,075,604. That includes a one-time federal influx of revenue, $778,000 of revenue from the 3.7% tax increase and the Title I money. I just wanted to provide the update, to provide clarification to the board as a whole and to the community. This one-sheet document will be provided to the district's website and at the business office, as well as for transparency purposes. I would also like to share one more piece of budgetary information that should be of the community's concern. There is an increase that I did not speak of too much in the budget presentations, and that's the cost of private cyber and charter schools to the district's budget. This is not, this is the private side of things, such as Pennsylvania Cyber Academy, Commonwealth Charter Academy, those type of things.
And we went over the budgeted number for these services for the school district. It was $871,250. This is going to go up as we still have 2 months left and they have some time to send the bills in that we usually get bills trailing all the way into August and September at some point. So far, we have spent $1,279,093.48, and we are over budgeted by 47%, and that number has been increased. This number has been rebudgeted for, I have increased this by 15% to a little over $1 million, as you can see that there. I still may be under budgeting this, but I'm hopeful that we can bring some of our kids back into our Crestwood Cyber Academy, which Mr. Mahalik talked so eloquently before doing a superintendent report. And that's still an increase of $130,000. During this budget season, there was a lot of increases that went on. I just want to state that there is a light at the end of this tunnel. And I understand the community is upset over the 3.7% tax increase. I've seen it. I'm very well aware of the thoughts that, and I understand a lot of the board members have taken a tremendous amount of slack over their particular vote on this. And they may not see the fruit of their labor on this particular vote, but the debt service quadrupled from 461,000 to 2.4 million. But that's also going to take a significant drop next year. We're also going to have some more federal money that I did not put into this year's budget, which is the American Rescue Plan, which is the most recent money that is out there, and that's the $2.9 million money. And if we finish this year strong, when I mean strong as in keeping our expenses down, which we have done significantly well at this year, Mr. Mahalik and I and the entire administrative team, and we continue to move forward with that vision and do that consistently through 21, 22, there is a very good opportunity that any tax increase next year could be muted or could be much smaller than what is on the radar screen for next year. But we have to get through what we have to get through this year. It's that balloon payment. This was noted by FSNL and by financial advisors going back, by my predecessors that were here before me going back. And this isn't something that popped up all of a sudden. This has been something that Crestwood should have been preparing for many years. And that time is here. And we're going to get through it and we'll be fine. But we have to understand this is just one of those things. This isn't wasteful spending. This isn't whatever anybody thinks that it is. But this is truly investing in that Crestwood diploma that is one of the most valuable diplomas in Northeast Pennsylvania to have for a student to come out of this area with. And I know there's a lot of academic planning that's going on behind the scenes, and I'm making sure that you don't hear no's from me when it comes to can we do something and can we do that. And we are continuing to push forward with that issue. Now, the Cyber Charter Academy schools, people may ask me, well, what are exactly those costs? Well, when you take your student out of Crestwood and you put them into a Pennsylvania Cyber Academy, Crestwood still has to pay the bill for that. And that's what these costs are. And they can charge us any amount of money they really choose to. The state doesn't really regulate it very well. And that's why there's a big push. So I ask you to call your state legislator and ask your state legislator to please reform the Cyber Charter schools costs so that it's a flat cost. We could better budget it. And it's more, and they have a better way of regulating that. So I just wanted to go over that. And I thank Mrs. Harris and Mr. Mahalik, especially for their tireless work in our Cyber Charter Academy and bringing some of our kids back. We only had 20 students out of 2,800 leave Crestwood during the pandemic to go to a private cyber school when many other districts had hundreds of students leave. We are blessed and incredibly lucky to have that, and we owe it to the teachers and the staff and everybody's hard work at doing that. And I just wanted to bring that to the public's attention as well. This isn't just my thing, but remember, I want to bring in one more thing. I present this budget to the board for approval. If the board changes and wants to do something else, I can make anything work. But I just want the board to understand that this is in the best interest of the district, the best interest for their financial future, the best interest for the financial future of the school district. And if you ask Michael Vinn, who's on the call today, he will second that this is in the best interest for our future of our credit rating moving forward if we want to do capital projects, which we are in the midst of working on a plan. So that's all, Mr. President and Mr. Chairman of the Financial Planning Committee. I thank you for the time. And I know there's a question specifically regarding the grant money that was sent in to me, and we will get that on the back end of coming around through items. And we'll answer that question on the back end coming around. Any questions about this? So thank you very much for your time, and I yield the floor back.
Thank you. As part of the Financial Committee, we'll be seeking approval of items 1 through 7. Do we have any questions from the committee?
Mr. Brogna, Mr. Swank, I don't have a question. I just have a comment based on Mr. Bard's presentation that we just listened to. And as far as, and Mr. Bard, you may be able to just answer this, but could you tell us, for purposes of the public understanding the situation, why did our debt service increase so dramatically year over year?
As the debt gets paid off, the further down you go with the debt, the increase is to retire the debt. So basically what we're doing with this year is retiring some old debt from years ago. This isn't anything really to do with any past recent projects. This is just retiring some old debt from the past. And Michael Vinn could probably talk a little bit better about that. Now that he's here, it's kind of lucky that he's here to talk about 6 and 7. But it's more so retiring some old debt from the past and not really anything to do with the current debt situation. When we settle into next year and the years beyond, it's going to be more of the current debt situation from the projects that we have incurred moving down the road. So this has been kind of one of those things. As you move down, the debt service kind of increases, and all of a sudden you have that balloon payment at the end where all the interest and everything else is bundles up together and you pay it all at one time. So it's like the balloon payment to retire all that debt. And that's why we can't call it quote unquote call or refinance it.
Right. Well, I was under the impression we did this last year to balance the budget for 1920.
Yeah, we did. We scooped it and you dumped it into this year, or you scooped and dumped it, and this was 2 years. You had a 2-year window to kind of build the revenue up to meet this obligation, and then COVID hit, and so we just kind of ran out of time to build up that revenue enough to pay for it in whole.
So if the scoop and refi was not utilized last year, we wouldn't have a dramatic increase in the debt service, correct? It would have been actually less this year than last year, correct?
2 years.
You would have had it would have been lower, but you would not have made the I don't believe you would have had the money to pay the debt service in 2 years ago. I don't believe you would have had the money to pay the debt service off 2 years ago, because you would not have had the fund balance was depleted. And the debt service payment was basically eliminated. And so you didn't have the fund balance or the taxing, the revenue to pay the debt service off. So I believe that's why you did the refi.
Right. So the increase was by design. The increase this year was by design, correct?
Yeah, it was a design thing to kind of relieve the stress on the financial situation a couple years ago, to buy you guys some time to struggle. And you guys did that. You buy yourself some time, and you have a very small fund balance, a 2% fund balance, but the mark of a healthy school district is somewhere between 8 and 10% of your expenditures.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, just a comment there. I do remember 2 years ago we did the scoop to push it back 2 years to give us time to raise the funds to pay off this outstanding debt. And where we ran into a little trouble this year is that last year, what the board was the amount the board was looking to raise the taxes, we basically cut in the tax increase last year in half because of the COVID situation. And that's what pushed us even further behind this year and made the balloon, made our obligation a little bit bigger.
Yeah, and I also want to point out the interest rate on number 6 is an incredibly low 0.44% for the revenue note. Last year, it was, I believe, 1.5 or 1.6%, I believe, last year. So it's almost, it's a very large reduction. So I just wanted to point that out, that we're able to secure a phenomenally low rate for interest rate. That will save us an approximately probably $20,000 to $30,000 in expenses on that as well.
Thank you. Any further discussion on our financial planning? If not, Transportation Committee, Mr. Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be seeking a motion and a second for approval of item 1 on the Transportation Committee.
Discussion by the board. Okay, policy, Mr. Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be making a motion and seeking a second for the approval of items 1 through 4 under policy.
Any board discussion? If not, Human Resources, Mrs. McGovern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be seeking a motion and approval of items 1 through 18.
Discussion by the board. And we'll wait until we get there. Academic programs, Mrs. Bibla.
I'll be seeking a motion and approval for items 1 through 6.
Discussion by the board. Co-curricular, Mr. Swank.
Thank you, Mr. Boone. I will be seeking approval of items 1 through 4.
Discussion by the board. Physical plant and construction, Mrs. Haddix.
I will be seeking approval of items 1 through 6.
And I believe the 4th of July parade will culminate at the Crestwood parking lot. Parade itself will not actually be in the parking lot. I think it's from St. Jude's to Crestwood. Technology, Mrs. Bibla.
I'll be seeking a motion and approval of item 1.
Thank you. And positive behavioral intervention, Mrs. Bibla.
No report.
Okay. Intermediate unit, Mr. Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Minutes are on file in the superintendent's office and on the district website. The next LIU meeting is scheduled for May 26, 2021 at the LIU boardroom.
And the Wilkes-Barre Area Career and Technical Center minutes are on file in the superintendent's office and on the district website. The next CTC meeting is June 21st at the CTC. I do not have a time for that.
And Mr. Boone, I would like to note that we're approving the CTC budget, and there was a decrease in about $20,000 from last year's allocation from Crestwood.
Thank you. We'll take public testimony at this time on agenda items.
Nothing on agenda items.
On non-agenda items.
I have one from Amanda Moroski I will read, okay? She sent me a question that said, she had, the question was, the ESSER 1 distributed $221,784 to Crestwood School District. ESSER 2 distributed $1,461,088 to Crestwood School District. ESSER 3 to be applied for the beginning of May and due by 9/20/2021 in the amount of, it's supposed to be 2.9 million. This totals almost $5 million. 20% of these funds must be used to address pandemic-related learning loss. Per PDE, the remaining 80% of a subrecipient's allocation can be used for a broad array of programs, including maintaining school staff and providing professional training, extending the school day or year, making technology purchases, providing mental health supports, and undertaking priority school facility repairs and improvements. And she listed a link from related specifics from the Congress.gov bill. She goes, can you please advise if the public will be made aware of exactly how the funds are being used and will be used and when? Per PDE, the funds can be used during the period of March 13th, 2020 to September 30th, 2024. Thank you, Amanda. So if you look on the screen now, you can see, I took this right from the April 12th budget presentation that I did. I went over this then, but I will go over it again for the people that could not make that meeting. So this is what we spent. I added some of the COVID-related grants that we have received, including some that were not mentioned in our question, just for the sake of transparency. If you look at the ESSER 1 money, the 221,784, you can see the list of items that we have purchased and have not purchased at this time. The one big thing in there is the summer program that the board will be voting on tonight. The $50,000 to be spent on the summer remedial program. We're going to use that money for the grant for Camp Kresge and for all the summer programs that the district will be offering to add to remediate some of the learning loss. We had to, we bought $2,800 worth of supplies for St. Jude's due to the non-pub spend that we had to give them. We bought a little over $41,000 in miscellaneous personal protective equipment and cleaning supplies for our maintenance department. We spent $103,940 and purchased Promethean boards for Rice and Fairview elementary schools. There's about 50 of them. I also like to thank the Rice PTA for purchasing 24,000 worth of them as well, and that totaled $21,784. The Continuity of Education grant, we purchased 320 Chromebooks. That was $81,469. We also received a PCC grant from COVID-19 and school health, where we purchased our Edmentum online platform for $111,189.64. We purchased 401 Chromebooks for $107,776.36. And we purchased the frontline absence systems that help us monitor our staff's absences and calls and substitutes, and better helps our administration stay on top of staff absences. For that total was $229,319. There were some of the grants that were not discussed. Mrs. Harris secured for us a COVID education, special education mitigation grant, where $16,355 were spent on supplies, books, and technology for special education students, and $6,000 was spent on training and support for the staff to help those students and help them better use the supplies and the books and technology that we purchased. So now we'll get to the ESSER 2 money, which is what we budgeted for. The 1.461088 will be used to maintain staff, to maintain programming and staff and professional training throughout the district throughout the 2021-2022 school year. And that is what the budgeted money is for, and that is what will be reflected in our budgeting purposes. If you looked at our budget, that's what we see it. I put in there on April 12th that the plans are fluid and we'll use our best judgment. Well, the best judgment is going to be to maintain programming and staff. If we remove that $1.4 million plug from the budget, the shortfall in the budget, we would have a serious deficit that we could not possibly overcome with even a 3.7% tax increase. So the ESSER 2 money and COVID actually helped us fill a deficit budget. So you can say that was a blessing in disguise, I guess you could say. So the ESSER 3 money was $2.910 million. We have to use 20% of these funds as Mrs. Moroski had mentioned, we have to use for academic recovery. We have not finalized plans for this money yet. I plan when we do have time to use these funds, I do hope to hold off using the majority of these funds for the 21-22 school, or later in the 21-22 school year, or the 22-23 school year. And I mentioned this briefly in my first presentation, but I hope that the combination of these funds plus the dip in our debt service payment can be used in conjunction with one another to provide so instead of having 2 straight years of Act 1 max tax increase, that perhaps we can provide a little bit of leeway to the taxpayers in the 22-23 school year. But that is the light that I was speaking of at the end of the tunnel, because we can use some of these monies as the same way we use ESSER 2 to continue to provide and provide training, support, money to help us. But we have to remember that these federal grant money, these federal program monies are like a cliff. And when the cliff disappears, we are back on our own again, and we cannot be back in a situation where we are relying solely on tax increases to fund the district, at least at the high level of 3.3% or 4% tax increases every year. We need them to be much smaller, in the 1% to 2% range, to be satisfied and happy. And I think that's what my goal is. And we could use these ESSER monies as a stepping stone to get there, but we can't use them as the end all be all. So I just wanted to answer Ms. Moroski's question with that. I did send this to Ms. Moroski, if you're listening, I did send this to you via email as well. I will post this to the district's website under business office as well so people can see this. Also, all of the budget presentations, if you have any questions about the budget presentations, they're all listed on our district's website, as well as the recordings that go along with them, so you can hear and not only see what I said about them as well. Thank you.
Okay, we have a few questions here. Jess Stallnecker states, I'm so confused. How is it that we're able to have a 5th grade play in person, a high school musical, but not 6th grade or kindergarten graduation in person?
So thank you for that question. And as you might know, the capacity levels just recently changed. And so there were, we needed to make decisions as to which way we were going to do this. And I support the decision of going virtual because that allowed each student to have as many people as they want to be able to see the event. Originally, we were looking at, maybe 2 parents were going to be able to come to a 6th grade graduation. And in some cases, if they were using the high school auditorium, it would not even have been able to allow 2 family members. So that changed on May 17th. Actually, maybe a little bit earlier than that, but there was already a lot of planning and preparation, Jess, to the graduation process. We've already announced that we were, for our high school graduation, that we were going to the arena. We were beginning by giving a very limited number of tickets per graduate, but we were able to increase that, I believe, a little bit, because again, the capacities have now been increased. So that's the reason. So the same with the play. The play was going to be, and still is, we still have to cap it at a certain, but we've now able to expand that. So it was all timing. Unfortunately, the legislators didn't really allow us a lot of time. And for the graduation, that clip that you saw for Fairview today, that program, they've been working on that, a lot over the past month and even longer. It's a lot of work. And so that's why we're doing some things virtual and some things will be in person. But no matter anything that's in person, we will follow all the mask mandates and we will follow the capacity levels for indoor seating.
Jess follows up with, did we consider an alternate location, perhaps the field house? Yeah,
I mean, the field house doesn't really provide us seating. The stadium does, but there's a lot of, you need to, provide a sound system, a stage, things of that nature to be able to use the field house. So it was definitely considered, Jess, and ultimately that was the decision made to be virtual. I for some and in person for others, but we had many discussions, and there are a lot of barriers to some of the things that we thought might work, and we're just hoping all this, we don't have to deal with this again after June 11th.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik.
But thank you so much for those questions, Jess.
Tommy Menz just makes a quick comment to the tran rate of 0.44%, that it was phenomenal. Great job to whoever found that rate. Molly Truskowski, will they be changing the high school graduation capacity with the new COVID guidelines?
So the capacity is it's at the arena. So we will work under the guidance and whatever restrictions that the arena has provided to us. So I am sure that we have increased the numbers. I'm not completely familiar with how much greater we're allowed to have in, but I do not believe that there should be an issue with our seniors having trouble getting tickets for their family members.
Thank you. Priscilla Kreider Cooney, can we discuss the plan for the 2021-22 school year? Is there going to be a more defined plan in place that is correctly following up-to-date CDC and Department of Health guidelines?
Sure, and that plan will certainly be discussed as we did all last year. I think we've kept our community as informed as possible, but we're going to wait on whatever updates to the guidance that is provided to us. We fully expect to be back in person 5 days per week, as we were prior to COVID. There may be the need for students and staff to continue to wear masks, but I'm not certain of that. But there's right now no indication that we won't be fully returned for those families that want to come back fully, and those that do not. Again, we're going to discuss with them the option of the Crestwood Cyber Academy. Certainly, more information will be forthcoming as soon as we get more guidance.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik. Tracy Patrick, Mr. Mahalik, could you explain why the credit retention program is virtual rather than in person? Virtual has been a difficult learning environment for many of these students, and in person may be better suited.
Yeah, thank you. And that's a great question. We are, utilizing the intermediate unit for this program, and that's the format that they're using for credit recovery. So I understand and I agree. I think the difference will be it's going to be much more individualized attention being provided to our students. We agree that virtual has not worked for some of our students, but this is the program that is being offered, and hopefully with the ability for them to really have more individualized instruction, that we'll be able to see improvements from our students and help them to recover the credits that they may have missed during the school year.
Thank you. Jamie Rush Halpin, I'm sorry, but why is the PTA paying for Promethean boards when fundraising is supposed to be used to enhance school experiences, especially when our taxes are constantly being increased? Shouldn't the districts cover that?
Certainly, we would like to, and we appreciate that the PTA made that purchase. PTA does a lot of great work, and in this case, it really helped us with our offering. As you can see through the budget presentation, while our taxes may be increasing, we are at a deficit, and we've been at a deficit. And we're a tremendous district in so many ways, but financially, we're a struggling district, and we are trying to get ourselves balanced, trying to get ourselves so we are, operating with a fund balance and not needing to make any cuts. So it was tremendous that the PTA was able to provide that support to us, and we are grateful for them. But we are doing all that we can do to make sure that our students have everything that they need in terms of academic, resources.
Thank you. Amy Ayers Weidlich, to my knowledge, Rice isn't even having a virtual 6th graduation. They are only having a parade. Is this correct?
Mrs. Bibla, you could probably speak more to the 6th grade. I know there is a parade. I know there are a lot of fun happenings, but I believe there is. Go ahead, Mrs. Bibla.
They're going to have a parade instead of a virtual graduation. They're having kind of like a field day, an outdoor thing with a barbecue for the kids. I wasn't a part of the meetings per se, but it was more about activities for the kids rather than a graduation. That's kind of what they were focusing on, because at that time, our restrictions were still high at the time of planning, and we couldn't foresee that this would all be open, and we couldn't make something happen in 2 weeks.
We originally had April 15th as a date of let's decide which way we're going. Now, again, that's very late in the planning of these type of events. And then we extended it, myself, Mr. Sayre, Mrs. Gregory said, let's extend this to May 3rd. We waited to May 3rd, and it was still, there would have been, especially, both the schools, but Rice, in some cases, a student would have only been able to have one family member in attendance, and we just could not see that being the case. And so, again, I know that this is, it's one of the things that COVID has taken, but we have tried to do as much as we can and try to bring this year to a happy ending for our students, and one that we can celebrate and recognize, especially those kids making the move to another level, as it is with 6th graders, as well as our seniors. So I know it's difficult, but we waited as long as we could wait till we said, it doesn't look like this is going to change. So we wish that would have changed earlier, and we understand why it did not. Our numbers were still very, very high. So we understand and accept that, but it is, it's upsetting for so many of us.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik. Priscilla follows up from her previous question regarding the 2021-22 school year and asks, or states that, but you have not been following guidelines now, so how do you guarantee next year will be different?
I believe we've followed every single guideline, probably more so than many that I know. We follow every guideline. So I would challenge that comment completely, fully, as someone that has worked very, very closely with a team of local respected physicians and an epidemiologist and nurses. We've followed everything to the T. So if someone can challenge that, please say it publicly or call me privately.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik. That was the final question for non-agenda, Mr. Boone.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now go into the voting session of the school board meeting. Roll call, please.
Ms. Bibla.
Here.
Mr. Brogna.
Present.
Mrs. McCurdy. Mrs. McGovern.
Here.
Mrs. Spath. Mr. Swank.
Here.
Mr. Costello.
Here.
Mrs. Haddix.
Here.
Mr. Boone.
Here.
7 members present.
Okay. At this time, we will call for nominations for a school board secretary to be appointed for a 4-year term. Floor is open.
I would like to nominate Anna Bibla for secretary.
I'll second that, Mr. Swank.
Roll call.
Ms. Bibla.
Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Brogna.
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay. Floor is open for nominations for a one-year term of school board treasurer.
I would like to nominate Mr. Brogna.
Second, Mr. Swank.
Miss Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Financial planning, Mr. Brogna.
I'll be seeking a motion.
You want to do the minutes first?
Oh, yes,
Aaron?
sorry about that. Yeah, I missed
Yep, no problem.
need a motion for approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of April 15th, 2021.
Motion, Mr. Swank.
Second, Mrs. McGovern.
Miss Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Seeking a motion for approval of the treasurer's report of April 2021.
Motion, Mr. Costello.
Second, Mr. Swank.
Miss Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Financial planning, Mr. Brogna.
Thank you, Mr. Boone. I'll be seeking a motion and approval for items 1 through 7.
Motion, Mr. Swank.
we have
Second,
a
Mrs.
second?
Haddix.
Miss Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Under item 1, I recuse myself on check number 1225. Yes on all other items.
Stacy, do you have a recusal also? I'm sorry.
I looked through all of them and I did not see any for Geisinger, so no.
I think you do, Stacy. Well, I thought I sent it to you in a message.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Hold on one second and I'll get you the number. It is 1237.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
So yes
Sorry.
to all, recusing myself from 1237.
Okay, thank you. Motion carried.
Transportation, Mr. Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be making a motion for the approval of items 1. I so move.
Second, Bibla.
Miss Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Policy, Mr. Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be making the motion for the policy committee for for approval of items 1 through 4. I so move.
Second, Mrs. McGovern.
Mrs. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Human Resources, Mrs. McGovern.
I recommend consideration and approve items 1 through 18.
Motion, Bibla.
Mrs. Haddix.
So I'll put Bibla as first and Haddock second, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mrs. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna, Mr. Brogna, are you there still?
He's there. Jim, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes to items 1 through 10, no to number 11, and yes to items 12 through 18.
thank you. Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Academic Programs, Mrs. Bibla.
I'll be making a motion and seeking approval for items 1 through 6. I so move.
Second, Mr. Swank.
Mrs. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr.
Hang on one
Brogna,
second, guys. Hang on one second, guys. Scroll down to number 6, please. There's one too many 3s there. One of those 3s should be gone. Please let the record state that one of those 3s should be deleted. It's not $5 million. It's $527,263.56.
And number 6 you said?
Yeah, it's $527,263.56.
Okay, too many 3s, okay.
Yes. I
Okay.
apologize. Thank you.
That's okay. Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Co-curricular, Mr. Swank.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will make a motion to approve items 1 through 4. I so move.
Second, Bibla.
Ms. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Physical Plant and Construction, Mrs. Haddix.
I will be seeking a motion and approval for items 1 through 6.
We need a second.
Brogna.
In a second.
Second, Bibla.
Ms. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Technology, Mrs. Bibla.
I'll be making a motion and seeking approval for item 1. I so move.
Second, Mr. Swank.
Mrs. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, 1 second here. June 10th. Okay. Our next scheduled committee meeting is June 10th, and our board meeting will be on June 17th. Hopefully at the secondary campus. I'm not sure if we're going to be in the media center or the auditorium. That will be made public when we post the announcement for those meetings. Have to take a look at facility usage. Need a motion for adjournment.
Motion, Mrs. McGovern.
Second, Mr. Costello.
Ms. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Yes,
Motion carried.
we are adjourned. Thank you. Have a good evening.